Enjoy the break, guys. Okay, Doctor, we're going to get back to you pretty quickly here. You're currently on the stand. You can't discuss your testimony. So if someone comes and asks you about how you testified, you're disregard the question. Understood? Okay, you can go on and out and relax for a second. Hold on, don't go too far. We're going to go on the record here. You can go now. Anything for the record?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Nothing for the record.
You're not on the record. He is.
Nothing for the record.
Thanks.
I'm not trying to ignore you.
That's okay. You still weren't on the record. My face.
Oh, that was a question. Or is a demand? Two guys.
No, one takes, one stays. Big difference.
Yes, no, I know. One of my favorite cookies growing up was my grandmother's tea.
Oh, yeah. This time? They're fun to make, too.
They are fun. They were one of my favorites.
Them and the kiss gumdrops. Peanut butter with a kiss in the middle.
They're good.
Why don't you get Paul here and see if you can do something with this?
See if you can help me.
What was your new nickname? I forget already. Sunshine. So if he's sunshine, does that mean he's darkness?
Not to her face.
You be sure to ask her how the judge asked how Rain Cloud was doing.
She would be so mad.
She would say, how did he find out my nickname?
I never say it to her because she would take that very personally. So closed.
This was a undried pig, but good nonetheless. Good. Are you still breathing there, sunshine?
He's still fine. He's got the seal,
Well, it's saying, it's just swearing here. Nothing. I have some yellow marks at the bottom. It's black.
Yeah, there's some yellow marks on this. I wonder if I touch it, does it get rid of it? There we go.
Are we going to be able to do the Zoom?
That's another question. Next. Thank you.
What time will we be back? Or
5 till.
Okay.
Looks awful dark there.
Yeah.
Does it still look dark?
Now it's light.
Now it's not. Can you see mine?
There we go.
Focus is horrible.
What's that?
Focus was horrible.
We put that
I
on.
do like the pink nail polish.
Oh my.
Who's bugging you?
That's not good. That's not picking that up.
I thought Susan was crossing the line.
It's not picking it up.
What do you three want? Come on down.
Paul, it's not picking up the document. It's picking up the hand, but not the document.
It's a focus issue, Paul.
Yeah.
There we are.
There we go. All right, whatever I touch, don't untouch it, right?
Good job, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunshine. I'm going to send out an email today that you're officially making an assumption. You're only here for a couple of weeks. I'm getting ready to start back up. What do you guys want?
Just wondering if there was a really quick anything you told the jury I know about the mask rules.
Hasn't been anything yet. They pretty much have been doing their own thing.
Wasn't sure if anything changed.
Only the press has to be met. Because you guys get out and about, so.
I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Okay, just was curious.
All the signs are released in town there. I do have the ability to force people to wear it, but what was the debate going on about that? I talked to the jury. They would like the second row front glass out. And I want the glass out in front of the witness so that you can hear it. And the order doesn't go into effect until tomorrow. So I'm in the process of negotiating that because supposedly I'm not a person here. I'm just a visitor. Even though I'm a visitor for the next time. You got to reserve
Your long-term stay.
That's why I told Alicia, I said,
Well, thank you. I was wondering if there was anything in here. So pretty much just
They're the people that are here to get you an invitation only. You're retiring. What do you got? 13 days, 8 hours, and 13 minutes, right?
you know what, though?
I've still got 360 hours of vacation I can take.
Well, you don't need anything else, because whatever you get, the government tax will like it to. You got nothing. Now you know why with the Congress. I did my 27 hours.
I did 2.5 the first time, 5.5 the second time.
It's okay.
So 3 strikes, isn't that like forever in California?
Let's talk about what it says. 3 marriages, 4 kids, 6 grandkids.
Okay, guys, thanks. Yeah, please. Okay. I've got some in my car. Do you want to borrow it? It even has a little red jet little thing. Oh, if it's not one thing, it's another. Just relax for a second. They'll call everybody up when the jurors come in. Due deference, that's what we do. Okay? And then at that point in time, I'll tell everybody to sit down, and then we'll go to wrong testimony.
This is a generation. And I think, God, he's just going to yell again. He's like, you are 3 or 4
You might as well gather them up. No, go ahead and go. We got 2 minutes.
I was just chit-chatting.
Okay.
I was going to explain why I need tissues. I sneeze, then my nose started running. Of course. And I'm like, I don't have any tissues.
You want
And
to
I
know?
can't, like, I wasn't going to do this. No, I didn't know. And now I haven't sneezed, except for that one time. But I can't sneeze.
Is this your daughter? Yeah, okay. This explains a lot.
Oh my God, you just wipe your face. Creatures.
Yes. But, or whatever it is we do to ourselves, right? We don't have these external threats. Not really. I mean, unless there's some major miscalculation. Other than that, there's really no existential threat. Actually, and that's some discussion about whether or not it's going to consider short-range tactical as either a threat or an answer there. Yeah, well, then that will be our problem. That's just speculation.
Yeah, I mean,
No one's saying that it really is.
They do have fun back there.
Just because he has doctor in front of his name, that doesn't mean he gets his DUI. Are you ready, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Judge?
Yes.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, I hope you had a good break. We're going to continue on with the testimony. Ms. Starr?
Thank you, Your Honor. And Dr. Chand, I'm going to direct your attention to what was labeled by defense as Joint Exhibit 5, page 46 to 47. Can you identify this for us again?
It's a progress note, Brandy McDonald.
Okay, I'm going to ask you again to speak up a little bit.
Progress note, Brandy McDonald.
And what is the date of this progress note?
The date is January 14th.
And what time did you make this progress note, sir?
Looks like just a little bit after in the afternoon.
And this would be the same date that she dies, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
All right, so I'm going to direct your attention to the second page of this progress note that you discussed on cross-examination. The patient is critically ill, poor prognosis. Tell us what you did here.
Well, my main review, my main thing that I did here is really talk to all the consultants and really talk to the family.
Okay.
That was my main concern.
All right, and I note a palliative care consultant code status DNR-CCA. Explain to us what that is.
So I consulted the palliative care team to help us, but it looks like at this point, I mean, they didn't even see the patient. But I changed the code status after talking to the family to DNR-CCA.
What does that mean to us, sir?
The A means that after discussing with the family, that they understood she was ill, and we still would do everything to save her, essentially. But if her heart naturally stops on its own at any point, we would not perform CPR or any heroic measures.
And in looking at this note, it looks like you had discussions with the family regarding how long they wanted to work towards seeing if this patient could be saved or not. Is that accurate?
According to the record, yes.
And what was that time frame they were looking at this point?
24, 48 hours.
Is there in the Mount Carmel system at that time, Mount Carmel West, was there a different DNR code that could also be implemented? A DNR-CC, I think is what we've heard it called?
CC, correct, yes.
What does that mean?
That essentially means we're not treating anything significant, just focusing on comfort care, comfort measures.
So at this point, the family wants the treatment still?
Treatment still, but just no CPR.
Now, can you tell us, you said you consulted with all of the other doctors, am I accurate in that?
Yes.
And then you had the talk with the family. How do you typically approach this type of issue with a family in your practice?
Yeah, it's obviously a very sensitive topic. So first you ask the family if they want to speak separately or in front of the patient, and just kind of briefly go through everything that we said so far, which would mean imaging, labs, and then what, if any, summarize for them what the consultants would say or opinions of what they recommend, and then essentially give them how we may feel this may progress towards, and help them, guide them towards what would they want to do if XYZ would happen.
Palliative care consult, what does that mean to us? I know you said it didn't happen in this case, but if it had gone on longer, what would have happened?
Essentially a team that would do what I did already,
okay,
which was talk to the family and guide them through the process as far as prognosis and helping with anything and support and helping with the code status.
Is this type of conversation something that you would consider a serious matter?
A what?
A serious matter?
Yes.
Is it something you would do on an emergency basis?
Yes.
Why? Tell us that.
Because things sometimes happen very rapidly, and we prefer input from the family if this would happen. So they're not shocked and surprised that nobody said it, nobody told us anything. So they're just so they're informed.
Okay. And in this case, CCA is what the decision was.
Correct.
In your practice, Dr. Shand, have you ever performed a palliative extubation?
I have not.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have no further questions.
You may step down.
Your Honor, I didn't open anything up on redirect that was already
Okay,
uncrossed.
stop. Ladies and gentlemen, talk amongst yourselves. Let's go sidebar. Doctor, you may step down. Thank you.
Leave this here?
Yeah, leave it there. We'll clean it up. You can have your mask. I don't need it. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Dan Baker to the stand.
And just to update you, the administrative order is in effect. I'm in the process of trying to negotiate that front glass. It's my understanding from consensus from you all, the second row front glass is being asked to be removed. I didn't hear any objection to removing the box up here, the front shield, so we get better audio. Okay? I have to leave the framework up. So we're in negotiation on that. I do have the ability to tell you to wear a mask or not. It's strictly under my thing. I want you all comfortable. If everybody's comfortable with it, fine. If everybody's not comfortable with it, we can deal with it accordingly. You guys are a group to me. Okay? Each individuals, but you're a group. Okay? You'll see people throughout the courtroom that may not have them on, that did have them on before. It's about their comfort. Okay? So that's an update for y'all. You ready?
Yes, sir.
And if anything I said about the class or anything you don't agree with, tell Darcy. You need to raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, go ahead and make yourself comfortable there. Now you have an aerial mic there in front of you, so you have to enunciate. Okay, it'll pick you up.
Okay.
We're also doing plexiglass, so the louder you are, the better off you are. We don't hold points against you for screaming at us, okay? Okay? I need you to state your name for the record and spell your name so that my court reporter can get used to your diction.
Yes, my name's Daniel D. Baker IV, Daniel D. Baker IV.
Okay? This side?
Thank you. What do you do for a living?
I'm the Chief Forensic Toxicologist at the Franklin County Coroner's Office.
And how long have you been so employed?
At the Coroner's Office in Franklin County since 2007, but I've had various roles in the forensic toxicology lab.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen your various previous roles in the forensic toxicology lab?
Yes, I came down as an assistant toxicologist in 2007, was promoted to toxicologist, then assistant chief toxicologist and quality assurance manager. And since 2014, I've been the chief toxicologist.
And what type of education and training do you have to become a toxicologist?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in forensic science from Youngstown State University. I have a master's degree in pharmacology and toxicology from Wright State University. And I'm board certified by the American Board of Forensic Toxicologists.
And how long have you been a toxicologist, and then how long have you been board certified as a toxicologist?
I've been a toxicologist for 20 years, and I've been board certified, I believe, since 2006.
And have you ever been found to be an expert in any Ohio courts in the area of forensic toxicology?
Okay, you're on? I'll permit the question.
This is not a witness, expert witness, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know this yet. Mr. Zion?
Have you ever been found to be an expert in any Ohio courts in the area of forensic toxicology?
Okay. Now, are you going to be using him as an expert?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go sidebar. We're trying to be a healthy snack. It's all Miss Darcy's fault.
I started out with the candy.
Yeah, she had the chocolate, and now we're the dried figs and dry dates. Yeah, but that gets messy. Okay, we're back on the record. Mr. Zion?
Back to my last question, just for transition. Have you ever been found to be an expert in the state of Ohio in any common police courts?
I've been qualified as an expert in forensic toxicology in approximately 15 courts.
Thank you. All right. So what do you do at the coroner's office on a day-to-day basis in general, if you can explain to them? We'll start with that. What do you do, and then we'll go into why you do that.
In forensic toxicology?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I direct or lead a team of forensic toxicologists, and we perform a battery of toxicology tests on decedents, basically blood and urine, body fluids, to determine whether drugs or poisonings could have caused their death.
And how do you do that?
Well, we use a number of analytical instrumentation techniques. It includes gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, or liquid chromatography, tandem mass spectrometry. But these
Wants to know how you get the samples.
I'm sorry. So samples or blood, urine, tissues are collected at autopsy or examination of a deceased individual, or from they are subpoenaed from hospitals in the event a person was transferred to a hospital first.
All right, explain why the difference between the two, taken at time of autopsy versus subpoenaed from a hospital.
Yes, so it is standard protocol and actual required practice by the National Association of Medical Examiners for our investigators to subpoena and acquire samples at hospital admission. This is because while a person is hospitalized and remains alive, their body is continually breaking down and eliminating drugs. Therefore, that evidence of possible drug abuse would be gone by the time the person ultimately was deceased.
So what is your understanding, based on your training and experience, of how and when these samples of the person's blood, urine, and other things are collected? How is that done? When is that done at the hospital, based on your understanding and experience?
Blood samples are commonly taken at the hospital to do routine tests, typical blood test or diagnostic tests to help a doctor diagnose a person's state or disease.
When they're first admitted?
First admitted, and then periodically throughout their stay in a hospital, physicians will order additional tests, maybe to diagnose a person's disease.
And for the purposes of your examination and based on the standards that you operate under, what blood and other samples do you want for your examination?
The first available sample closest to the incident that caused them to be transported to the hospital.
Okay. And is there a word for this type of blood as far as its time regarding death?
Yes, antemortem or before death.
So could you spell that for the record there?
ANTEMORTEM.
All right. And when you subpoena this, you want, like, when they come in as soon as they can, it's the soonest blood sample, et cetera, that they have, right?
Yes, those would be the closest to the incident that caused them to go to the hospital.
All right. And then I think you were getting into the scientific test that you're able to do on those samples.
Yeah, so once those samples are received and inventoried, they're barcoded so we can track their location and process as they're being tested. They are subjected to a routine battery of kind of preliminary screening tests, and then based on any presumptive findings, we'll follow that up with more specific confirmation tests.
All right. So were you so employed and so working back in April of 2017?
Yes.
And did you have occasion to examine the antemortem blood, that being the blood you just described, the first samples taken from a man named Ryan Hayes?
Yes.
Showing you what I had marked for the record as 18P as in Papa. Multi-page document. Do you recognize this document?
Just for the record, that states 18?
States 18P.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
And what is that document?
It is the coroner's report, findings of facts and verdict.
All right.
It is the autopsy report, findings and diagnoses.
And does that appear to be a fair and accurate copy of that document?
And it's also the toxicology report.
Hold on, we got an objection.
How could you authenticate something he didn't write?
Okay. We've We've been through this, overruled.
Go ahead, sir. Does that appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the autopsy report and findings?
Yes.
And is your report a part of that document?
Yes.
And where does your report begin?
On page 6 of this packet.
All right. And how many pages does your report contain?
5 pages.
All right. And is that fair and accurate regarding Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I request permission to publish.
Only as to his report.
Correct.
Any objection if it's limited to his report?
Subject to his objection.
For the record, 18P attached as just described by the witness, the toxicology report. Is this what you were referring to up there, sir?
Yes.
All right, so tell us what's this at the top here? Who's Ani Ortiz?
That is the coroner of Franklin County.
All right. And toxicology, and who is Daniel D. Baker, chief toxicologist?
That's me.
All right, and who is this referred to over here? I'm pointing to the left-hand side.
Ryan E. Hayes is the decedent.
What's this case mean?
That's a unique number assigned to this case and this person.
And what's this mean over here on this side?
That's when the report was completed and issued.
All right. And what's this sentence mean here? Can you tell the jury what that means?
It means a full toxicology analysis has been performed.
Okay. And here we have that word again. What's that word?
Antemortem before death.
Okay, before death, blood. That's what you tested in this case?
Blood, yes.
All right. Lavender top bottle. What's lavender top bottle mean?
Lavender top just refers to the color top tube. Lavender tops contain an anticoagulant called EDTA.
All right. ELISA screen, what does that mean?
That's a screening test to screen for classes of drugs.
All right, let's go through the classes of drugs that were screened for. Acetaminophen, what's that?
Tylenol?
Was it detected?
No.
What's this next one?
Amphetamines, a stimulant, was not detected.
What's this?
Barbiturates is a depressant, none were detected.
What's this?
Benzodiazepines are an anxiolytic or depressant, none were detected.
What's this word?
Benzoylecgonine is a cocaine metabolite. It was not detected.
Can you explain what a metabolite is?
Yeah, if a person or a human or animal for that matter ingests a drug or is exposed to a drug, the body breaks that drug down in order to more effectively eliminate it from the system or get rid of it.
And when it breaks it down, does it turn it into these other things called metabolites?
Yes.
All right. So no cocaine metabolite, benzoglycanine, was detected.
None was detected.
What's this?
Buprenorphine is an opioid.
Was it detected?
No.
What's this?
Cannabinoids is marijuana. It was not detected.
What's this?
Fentanyl is an opioid.
And what was that?
We had a presumptive positive indication it may be present.
Tell them what that means. A presumptive positive indicating it may be present.
Because this is a screening test, like I said, there's a battery of screening tests that are performed, and then they're followed up with more specific confirmation tests. These are different and support maybe a preliminary indication that that drug may be present.
All right, what's this next one?
Methadone is another opioid.
Was it detected?
No, it wasn't.
What's this?
Methamphetamine is a stimulant. It was not detected.
What's this?
Opiates is a class of drugs.
And was that detected?
We obtained a presumptive positive.
What's this next? This next one here?
I can't read it.
Oh.
If you can move it up.
Sorry.
Thank you. Oxycodone and oxymorphone was not detected.
What's this next thing?
Salicylates, aspirin was not detected.
And lastly, here on this page, one.
Tricyclics or tricyclic antidepressants, none were detected.
Going to page 2 of your report. What's this at the top?
Okay, I can't see it.
Ah, you're right, Judge, you're right.
Ethanol or drinking alcohol.
And was that detected?
Yes, it was.
What about this?
Nicotine from tobacco was detected.
What's this?
Codeine is a metabolite of nicotine. It was detected.
All right, so that is the body's breaking down nicotine, and we have the metabolite of codeine?
Yes.
What's this next thing?
Morphine.
And was that detected?
Yes.
And why do we have here, it's just been before, we've had measurements or confirmation. Why do we have a measurement here?
Yeah, see, on the left-hand column, you'll see the analytical technique. All of those are conformational tests.
Okay.
GCMS, or gas chromatography mass spectrometry. And yes, we confirmed the presence of morphine at 83 nanograms per milliliter in that blood sample.
All right. So these are the confirmation tests. The first page of your report were the screens. Now we're getting into confirmation tests.
Yes.
All right. What's the next thing that was tested for in the confirmation tests?
6-monoacetyl-morphine is a heroin metabolite. It was not detected.
Next.
Codeine is another opioid related to heroin, and it was not detected.
Next.
Hydrocodone and dihydrocodone are opioids, and they were not detected.
Next.
Dihydrocodone is a metabolite of hydrocodone. It was not detected.
Next.
Naloxone is the antidote to opioid intoxication. It was detected at 26 nanograms per milliliter in that blood sample.
Hypothetically, if this person was given naloxone in an ambulance to the hospital, would that account for that finding in your confirmation reports?
Yes.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your understanding of why naloxone is given and what its effects are.
Well, naloxone is given routinely now because opioid-related deaths are so prevalent. This naloxone blocks the opioid receptors and causes the opioid in the person's system not to have an effect anymore.
Okay. All right. The next section, what does this mean? Blue top blood taken on 4/2/17 at 1:41 a.m.
That was another blood sample utilized. It, I believe, is the same time and date as the other blood sample. What happens is hospital samples, a lot of times there isn't much volume there. So as we run out of volume in one sample, we need to go to another one and proceed with our testing and confirmation.
All right. Why did you test for alcohol again?
That was to confirm the presence of the first sample.
From this one up here at the top?
Yes.
All right. And to give people a perspective, 0.10, is that like what people might be familiar with breathalyzers, things like that, OVI?
Yeah, 0.08 is the legal limit, so that is just over 0.08.
Okay. And then what else is confirmed here?
We confirmed fentanyl at 1.1 nanograms per milliliter.
All right. What's this next thing?
Norfentanyl is a metabolite of fentanyl. We did not detect it.
All right. What's this last thing here?
Carfentanil is one of the strongest opioids known. You may know this as an animal tranquilizer. It's not used in humans and is an illicit form of fentanyl.
All right. And this is taken prior to any hospital. This is taken when he gets to the hospital. So if this is in his system, this is something he's illicitly taken prior to arriving at the hospital.
Yes.
All right. Why don't we have an amount?
We do not quantify carfentanil just because its mere presence is significant enough to cause a person's death.
All right. What's next?
All of these tests, this next battery test is performed in the vitreous humor fluid, which is fluid obtained from the decedent's eyeball. All of these are metabolic or clinical chemistry tests and are used for the purpose to diagnose diabetes, kidney failure, or liver failure.
All right. So I'm hoping that is post-mortem?
Yes, it is post-mortem.
All right, because they actually, because it's from someone's eyeball? All right. Let's talk about the last page here. What is this?
Move it down just a little bit.
Yep.
This was testing performed in post-mortem urine from the decedent, and we tested a gray top urine sample, and we only detected cotinine, the nicotine metabolite, by GCMS in this sample.
All right. So the blood samples that confirm the amount of fentanyl, and in this case, carfentanil, that's taken as he gets to the hospital. That's the purpose of this.
Correct.
All right. Why are you doing these things, and how are they used by the coroner in determining cause of death?
The forensic pathologist, they use three main types of information to come to an opinion as to a person's cause and manner of death. They first review...
Your Honor, he's not a forensic pathologist.
I would agree, sustained.
Do you have an understanding of how your reports are used? Why are you employed? What do they do with your report? Do you have an understanding of that?
Yes, I have a general understanding.
And I'd ask him to be able to testify as to his general understanding of how his reports and his work is used by the forensic pathologist.
Okay. This is his understanding, though.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
In general, the forensic pathologist looks at three main areas of information. Number one is the circumstances surrounding a person's death, the scene investigation, or medical history. The second is their autopsy findings of disease or trauma. And the third piece of information is toxicology results that would substantiate or refute any type of drug or poison in that person's system.
Ante-mortem, has they arrived at the hospital?
Yes.
Thank you. Showing you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 18O has an Oscar. Do you recognize 18O?
Yes, I do.
What is 18O, please?
This is the coroner's report, findings of fact and verdict of James Timmons. The post-mortem examination report, findings and diagnoses.
And is a toxicology report part of that report?
Yes.
And did you perform that toxicology?
Yes, I certified the report.
And is that on the back of that, is that report contained therein?
Yes.
And is it fair and accurate?
Yes.
May I publish it?
Any objection?
Same subject, same objection.
Okay. Overruled. You may publish.
Now, you said when they come in off the street, they take the blood samples and stuff at the time of autopsy, but when they come in from the hospital, like Mr. Ryan, they take it ante-mortem as they arrive at the hospital. What's the situation with Mr. Timmons?
Both are accurate. So samples are not only subpoenaed and acquired from the hospital, but other samples are taken at the postmortem examination.
Okay. Were these samples that were taken, that were tested by you on Mr. Timmons, were they ante-mortem taken at the time that he arrived at the hospital?
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah, you got to look at stuff here. I'm sorry. Look, publishing page 1 of 5, the attached toxicology report that was just authenticated.
Yes, this shows that ante-mortem blood from James Nicholas Timmons was tested.
On what? And the sample was collected on what date and time?
October 22nd, 2018 at 21:47 hours.
All right. And just we'll go through this very quickly. Same type of screenings as Mr. Ryan on page 1.
Yes, the ELISA screening tests showed a presumptive positive for benzoylecgonine, the metabolite of cocaine, and marijuana.
All right. Are any opioids in his ante-mortem blood, I mean when he arrived at the hospital? on page 1 here?
Not on page 1.
Okay. So the screens are positive for a metabolite of cocaine. What does that tell you as a forensic toxicologist regarding his ingestion of cocaine at some point?
That individual was exposed to cocaine prior.
His body
to
is
the collection.
processing it, and that's what's found?
Yes.
And the cannabinoids, that's just marijuana, however he took it?
Correct.
All right, going to page 2. Same test as we saw with Mr. Ryan. At the top there,
Yes, these conformational tests, ethanol was not detected, fentanyl was not detected, norfentanyl was detected.
what's norfentanyl?
It's an inactive metabolite of fentanyl.
All right, so once again, as a forensic toxicologist, what, if anything, can you surmise from Mr. Timmons at some point prior to coming to the hospital, his ingestion of fentanyl?
That he had been exposed to fentanyl.
And his body's breaking it down, and that's what's left?
Correct.
At the time he arrives at the hospital. Okay. And then what's the rest of these tests here in the section pop? Gold top serum, what's that?
That is another hospital antemortem sample. Again, just a different type of blood tube. And similarly, what is occurring is we're running out a sample from the gold top serum and going to another gold top serum.
All right.
This is at a different time.
A different time at the hospital?
It's 2 hours later, yeah. Or
Okay.
approximately.
So we see ketamine. What is ketamine?
Ketamine is a dissociative anesthetic administered to people for the purpose of medical procedures and, to anesthetize them. So
All right.
they're not aware.
So can you surmise, based on your training and experience as a forensic toxicologist, knowing that he came from the hospital, that they had begun therapeutic administration of drugs at this point?
Speculation.
Based on his training and experience, Judge.
Okay, no, we don't do runnings. Let's rephrase the question.
What, if anything, can you surmise, based on the timing of this and your knowledge of these drugs, how the ketamine got in there?
Objection, speculation.
This is our law to make inferences, Judge.
Can't guess.
I understand, okay? This is according to his training.
Yeah.
Okay, it's permissible.
From this report, the only thing that can be surmised is that this individual was exposed to ketamine sometime prior to this blood sample being taken.
All right.
We have access to medical records, and in the medical records, I know that this individual was given ketamine prior to this sample.
No use,
Okay, overruled.
Thank you. Moving on to the next section. What do we have here in the gold top serum sample 2332? Is this a different time? Is that what that is saying?
A different time from what?
From the one that we just looked at?
Yes, it is.
So you're running out of samples, and as the hospital continues to take samples, you're continuing to test?
Yes.
All right, so what do we find now?
We only find 11 nor 9-carboxy delta 9 THC, an inactive metabolite of marijuana.
All right. Now, down here, antemortem urine. So this is before death urine. So we're out of the blood. Now you're looking at Mr. Timmons' urine that was collected at this date and time?
We didn't go to the urine because we were out of blood. We test blood and urine on every case if it's available.
All right. And what do you find testing his urine that was collected on 10/22/18 at 21:47?
We find the presence of fentanyl, nicotine, and codeine.
Cigarettes
Yes.
or tobacco, right?
And ketamine and its metabolites.
All right. So ketamine, that anesthetic, dissociative anesthetic you described, and then these are the body's breaking down,
Yes.
the ketamine. All right. Finally, moving to page 3 of your report. else do you find in Mr. Timmons' urine?
You see your hands on me.
Oh, there we go.
Cocaine, and its metabolites benzoylecgonine and methylecgonine.
All right. And once again, are there amounts here? Like how much is in this system?
Not in the case of urine. Those urine results, the amount is not interpretable.
All right. You can just say it's there or not.
Exactly.
So, doctor, based on your training and experience as a forensic toxicologist, for how many years now at the coroner's office?
Since 2007. And I'm a forensic toxicologist. I'm not a doctor.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I called you a forensic toxicologist. Under what circumstances do patients or do blood samples come to you as part of an autopsy? Are you aware of what circumstances?
Routinely on every case.
Everyone that dies in Franklin County gets an autopsy?
No, but everyone who dies and has an autopsy or an examination by a forensic pathologist, they obtain postmortem samples for toxicology testing.
And what is your understanding of why someone would receive an autopsy, why someone's body would receive an autopsy? If you know. If you don't know, that's fine.
That's determined by the forensic pathologist who manages the case.
Okay, sustained.
Can we move to strike and have a witness?
Strike the answer. Okay, stop. Strike the answer. New question.
Do you know how the determinations are made?
That's up to the pathologist's judgment.
All right. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Cross.
Mr. Baker, when did the state of Ohio tell you you're going to be called as an expert witness in this case?
I believe 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. Did they ask you or provide you with additional materials to review prior to testifying?
No.
So simply just the report that you have here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's go into your report for Mr. Hayes, which would be State's Exhibit 18D. Now, for Mr. Hayes, the first blood taken was on April 2nd, 2017 at 1:41 in the morning, correct?
That is not necessarily the first blood taken. That's the first blood that we received that was closest to the incident that caused them to go to the hospital.
Okay, so just to be specific, this is the first blood listed in your report that you analyzed?
Yes.
Okay. And so you're aware then that Mr. Hayes died the following day, not on April 2nd, right?
I know that some time period had passed since his admission and the time that he died.
Okay. But you reviewed
If it's a day,
you reviewed the medical records, right?
I can tell you exactly. Well, it's actually in this exhibit, the date and time of his death.
Stop. Let's start with another question.
So, just to confirm again and not to waste everyone's time about this, fentanyl and opiates were confirmed to have been in that first blood you analyzed, correct?
Those are presumptive positives that you're pointing to.
Presumptive
That gives us an indication that fentanyl or opiates may be present.
Okay, but that's why you do all these other tests, right, to confirm it?
Yes.
Okay, so based on these other tests, again, it was confirmed that he had fentanyl in his system, right?
Yes.
And that was when he arrived to the hospital, the blood that you analyzed, right?
Yes.
So he walked into the hospital with these drugs in his system. Actually, let me clarify. He was taken in an ambulance after overdosing on these drugs to the hospital, right?
I'll permit the question. Do you not?
I know that this death was presented to our office as a suspected overdose.
Okay. Without getting into what other people said, because you reviewed the medical records, right?
Objection, Your Honor, that's what other people said.
Okay, well, he's excluding it. Do you have a question?
Yeah. You reviewed the medical records, right?
I reviewed the medical records
Yes or no?
in light of...
Mr. Baker, yes or no?
Okay,
Did you review?
he's answering your question. Go ahead.
While that is correct that I reviewed some medical records, I reviewed the medical records specifically to substantiate toxicology findings by our scientists.
Okay. So then you would be aware then that he came to the hospital as an overdose, right?
That's how the case circumstances were presented to our office.
Okay.
That's what was suspected.
Now let's talk about carfentanil. Now, I know you spoke on direct examination about how powerful it is, right?
Yes, it's
So powerful that the mere presence of it, you don't have to quantify because it kills, right?
it can lead to death, yes.
And that's why you don't quantify it when you test for it, right?
Correct.
Okay. In fact, as a toxicologist, you know that carfentanil is almost 100 times more powerful than non-illicit medicinal fentanyl, right?
I've seen various estimates.
Over 100 times, right?
Over 100 times more potent than fentanyl? Yes, I would agree to that.
Thank you. And again, that was in his system when he arrived to the hospital.
Yes.
As well as ethanol, right?
Yes.
As well as morphine, right?
Yes.
So to clarify, morphine and carfentanil are opiates but different drugs, right?
Correct. Carfentanil would be considered an opioid. Morphine would be considered an opiate.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the difference between an opioid and an opiate. An opioid is synthetic, right?
Traditionally, opiates are termed that way as coming from the poppy plant or derived from the poppy plant. There are many other opioids that are synthetically derived, like you say, but there are some synthetic opioids that cross-react with our ELISA assay as an opiate. So they're very closely related, but they both work on the same receptors in a human.
They weren't different. Would they call them something? Would they just refer to them all as opiates? Maybe make it simpler. Why is there even a distinction between an opioid and an opiate? Because they're different, right?
For our purposes, they're different. Opiates or opioids react on different screening tests in the toxicology lab.
Are they the same
That's
thing?
why.
Simple enough. Are they the same thing?
Your Honor, I would object to him interrupting the answers and interjecting other answers.
Okay.
There is overlap in the definition. This is
But they're
why.
not the same thing.
Well, an opioid can be an opiate, but traditionally by a definition, opiates are derived from the poppy plant.
All right. Yes or no, are they different?
I believe there's overlapping in the definition when you categorize specific drugs.
In your experience, are they different?
Mayor, I think he's answered the question best he can.
I think he hasn't answered the question once.
Okay, move on.
So, okay. Getting back to the opiates and opioids that were in his system, there were multiple in his system when he arrived at the hospital, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's talk about Mr. Timmons. This is State's Exhibit 1810-0.
Oh, it's an Oscar.
18-0 as an Oscar. And again, everything you reviewed for Mr. Timmons prior to his death, correct?
I didn't understand the thrust of your
All the
question.
blood you reviewed was prior to his death, correct?
All the blood that we tested was prior to his death. Reviewed,
Okay.
I reviewed and certified results,
Okay,
sir.
just relax.
So you're aware then, in 1022, and having reviewed his medical records, you're aware then that he died days later, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you're also aware that he also came to the hospital as an overdose, right?
That is what is suspected, yes.
That he was found unresponsive by a family member after having been down for some time. You're aware of that, right?
I don't have the case memorized. I can review, the records of the case and tell you the specific circumstances that he came into our office.
I thought you reviewed them before you testified.
I did, but I didn't memorize the circumstances of every decedent, sir.
So you didn't care to memorize the situation when an overdose victim came in?
Okay, you're getting argumentative. Let's move on.
What records did they give you to review?
They gave me these exhibits, but I have their full case records here, and I can tell you and answer whatever questions you want from me.
Okay. But as you stand here as a state expert, you're not prepared to testify as to the condition these people arrived at the hospital.
Form of the question.
It's not
No,
that at all.
Form of the question, re-ask.
Are you aware, as you sit here today, of the conditions in which these people came to the hospital prior to your analyzing the blood that was given to you?
Yes.
So then you're aware that both came to the hospital having been found unresponsive as overdoses?
As suspected overdoses, yes.
Okay, and that was prior to getting to the hospital, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about what Mr. Timmons overdosed on. Now, the benzo, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. That was the cocaine metabolite, correct?
Correct.
Cannabinoids, marijuana, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you have the metabolite for fentanyl.
Correct.
Okay, and this is again prior to him getting to the hospital, or the first blood that you analyzed here, right?
Yes, prior to his death, yes.
Okay. And you said that based off your review of the medical records that you came to a determination that he was given ketamine upon his arrival, right?
Yes, that's documented.
Okay,
There in the medical
so tell me how that makes sense. Ketamine is used for sedation, right?
I'm not a medical physician. I don't know why it makes sense whether he was administered ketamine or not. I have the medical records that shows the date and time it was administered, and I can show you those.
So just to clarify, though, you didn't just testify in direct examination that he was given ketamine for therapeutic reasons? But now you can't talk about it?
I never said therapeutic reasons, I don't believe.
Your Honor.
So, overrules right now.
Who gave him the ketamine? You know that?
Not off the top of my head.
What's this meth thing here?
Methyleconine, it's a metabolite of cocaine.
Okay, so another metabolite for cocaine, right? And then we have your confirmation tests, right?
Those are urine tests, GCMS tests, yes.
Okay. Fentanyl, right?
Correct.
Ketamine,
Yes.
Various forms of ketamine?
Metabolites, yes.
Cocaine?
Yes.
And the metabolites for it as well, right?
Correct.
As a toxicologist, you learn the effects of drugs on people, correct?
Yes.
People who use the drugs that James Timmons and Ryan Hayes use develop tolerances to them, don't they?
Can you repeat it? I didn't hear you.
People who use opiates develop tolerances for them, don't they?
Objection, Your Honor.
If you can answer.
Yes, they can after prolonged use, but that is reversible. So there's no way to know whether this individual had tolerance at this time.
Well, but you review the prior medical records, right? So you know that they both have documented histories of substance abuse.
Okay, sustained.
Are you aware that it's documented in their medical records that both had a prior history, a long history of substance abuse?
No, I did not review that specifically.
Right. But hypothetically, if they did, and then you found these drugs that you found, they would have tolerance to them, would they not?
That's possible.
I'll permit it.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry?
That's possible.
Right. In fact, Mr. Hayes even had the super powerful carfentanil in his system, right?
It's been asked and answered.
Not in the context of tolerance, Your Honor.
No, it's been asked and answered.
Okay. How would a drug as powerful as carfentanil affect someone's tolerance to opiates?
Well, again, opioid tolerance is developed over time, and it is reversible.
I'm sorry, I didn't
So
interrupt you.
a single...
Opioid, you said opioid again.
Judge,
So
I
it's
would
a-
object to this one.
Okay, he was answering your question. I agree. Sustained. Finish your answer, please.
Go ahead.
Yes, so opioid tolerance occurs after prolonged use of opioids. However, it is reversible also, so there's no way to measure this individual's tolerance at the time of his death to any opioid. A single use of carfentanil wouldn't create tolerance, but prolonged use over time would.
And again, you're not aware of anything in the medical records that would indicate the prolonged use of drugs like this for either of these people, right?
No.
Okay. Just to clarify, hypothetically, I shoot up carfentanil. Am I not going to be tolerant to it tomorrow?
Objection.
Okay, sustained.
How long till I'm not tolerant to an opioid?
Objection, Your Honor.
Hypothetically, someone with these drugs in their system, how long would it take for them to all of a sudden not be tolerant to that drug?
Okay, that's
Objection, Your Honor.
sustained.
Franklin County has a forensic pathologist, right?
Yes, we have a number of them.
And in fact, isn't it true that it's free, that anyone can request an autopsy?
Objection, Your Honor.
If he knows, do you know whether or not?
I think anyone can ask for an autopsy, whether that does, just because a person asks to have their next of kin autopsies, that doesn't mean that they will in fact be autopsied.
So it's your testimony as the chief toxicologist for the Franklin County Coroner's Office that any citizen with the next of kin that requests an autopsy doesn't get it, there's a process in which they won't get it?
And let's say the forensic pathologist manages cases, and they have the discretion as to perform what type of examination is warranted in the case. There are private hospitals that can provide autopsies if the case is not within our jurisdiction or realm.
Okay. Public hospital like Mount Carmel West in Franklin County, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you know where Mount Carmel West was when it existed?
I believe so, on Broad.
In Franklin County, right?
I believe so, yes.
In your jurisdiction, right?
Yes.
Okay, so establishing that it's in your jurisdiction.
No, that's not what that means. when I say jurisdiction, cases that are examined at the coroner's office need to be suspicious deaths, have trauma or foul play involved, motor vehicle accidents, workplace incidents. It is very specific types of deaths, not just that someone died in Franklin County.
Okay, let's go off of what you're saying then about the suspicious deaths. These two people you reviewed were suspected overdoses prior to going to the hospital, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you only are here to testify about two of 14 different people, right?
How would he know that? Rephrase.
Were you ever asked to do this type of analysis for anyone else besides these two people?
No.
And again, it was because their death was related to an overdose prior to getting to the hospital, right?
Yes, that's how the case was presented to us, yes.
Nothing further.
Redirect? Okay, you may step down. We'll go take lunch, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do an hour and 15 minutes. Come back at 1:15. Okay? Remember the admonition. We'll get started promptly.
All right.
Have a great lunch, guys. Okay, you may step down. Is that Judge Cocroft in the back? Why don't you come and visit me? I miss you. Anything for the record, Mr. Zion?
Nothing for the record, Your Honor.
Anything for the record, Ms. Lapita?
Yes, Your Honor, just to add to our previous objections, we were,
Go ahead.
just laying a record, Your Honor, we were not provided any report that indicated what this person reviewed prior to testifying, and we learned for the first time during his direct testimony that he was provided medical records to review and testify to during direct examination. So I want it on the record.
Okay. I lost Judge Cocroft.